CC'd an email to Bob, and the first one was basically raising a concern that she had, and then the second one was thanking for addressing the concern and moving on. So, good. That's good.
Okay, and I don't know if anybody had a chance to sign up for public comment. If anybody wants to make public comment, they just need to sign up and then they can. You're all here for the PTO update. All right, so there's no public comment, Marcia?
Just double checking.
I just like to make Marcia get up.
Check that list.
Oh, wait.
Just in case.
Okay, all right, for the end, you're thinking? Oh, he's thinking for the end. Okay. All right, so the consent agenda, we actually don't have a quorum here, but we are calling one additional board member in so that we have a quorum and can vote on things. And we're going to go ahead and just change the order of the agenda slightly so we can get through all of the things that involve motions.
Hi. Okay. Which one's speaker?
Great.
Okay.
Put it. Whoever's
Hi,
speaking.
everyone. Thanks for dialing me in.
Hi.
Hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
Okay.
Put it right in front of you.
Okay, so Claire, you're near me, so at least you'll know when we're voting, okay? Okay, the consent agenda, does anybody have anything to extract?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, all those in favor? Claire?
Hi.
Okay,
Aye.
great. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We're going to skip ahead. Again, this won't take long. We're not going to delay the PTO. I apologize. From the Finance Committee meeting, we have a special appropriation request. Bob, I don't know if you want to give just a couple words about that.
So in conversation with our leaders at Town Hall, it's appropriate that, and it's important and required that we authorize, or that the Board of Education authorizes the board chair to request an appropriation that helps us to meet the needs of our deficit that we have run this year, the deficit due to unanticipated special education, out-of-district costs, as well as costs related to the heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, and some of the environmental cleanup that took place twice this year regarding in August, as well as in the pool area, and a few other related areas. So it is required by the town that we make that motion, so we can provide them a letter officially asking for that, and then they will act upon that in a special meeting in the coming weeks in the town.
Okay. You need a motion?
Move that we authorize the board chair to request that the boards of selectmen and finance provide a supplemental appropriation not to exceed $289,000 for the 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And then we have a motion, some policies that have been under review for 30 days and are now up for us to go ahead and approve those policies. This goes on throughout the year when we update policies and then have them available for review, and then finally approve them after a 30-day period. So can we have a motion?
I will move that we adopt policies 4212.42, drug and alcohol testing for school bus drivers, 5141.21, administering medication, 5145.5, sex discrimination and sexual harassment, 5145.511, sexual abuse prevention and education program, 5141.4, child abuse and neglect, and 6141.322, computers, websites, pages as presented. We were very busy this month.
Yes. Okay.
Very productive.
Second, thank you. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Claire?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we only have one more. This is regarding the Wintergreen Magnet School, and Bob's going to give us a little summary of some of the changes that have been going on with Wintergreen Magnet and our relationship with them.
Sure. Wintergreen Magnet School is a school that had been located in Hamden. They've relocated to North Haven recently, or well, for next year, I should say. Back in the very beginning of Wintergreen, Woodbridge was one of 5 districts that entered into a partnership to really initiate this magnet school's birth and success. Over the years, Wintergreen has serviced more and more students from New Haven, and several of the districts similar to us who were part of the 5 originating founding towns of support have withdrawn their partnership due to changes in demographics, changes in other opportunities that they have offered their students in their district. At this time, we've had a conversation with the executive director of ACES. ACES runs the Wintergreen Magnet School. Had that conversation, and the reality that while Woodbridge is always open to providing this as an opportunity to encourage a student or support a student or a family who would wish to send a student to Wintergreen, we've not had any students go to Wintergreen for some long time. And so the reason for disengaging from the partnership is really because we have an exposure. Technically, we have a certain number of seats that we can fill and are, in a sense, responsible for. And in a very difficult fiscal environment in any given year, we could be on the hook, even if we had no students there, to actually owe money to operate the school, as well as transportation. So this motion does, I think, the best of all worlds. What it does is it takes us out of a fiscal situation where we're going to be having some exposure that we don't want to have. At the same time, it does not limit our ability to encourage students, if they wish, and families to pursue Wintergreen as an option. So that is where we are right now, and we really are probably the 4th out of the 5 towns that are really looking at doing this kind of a thing. Meriden has already disengaged. Hamden is about to. I'm forgetting the other town, but New Haven is really the biggest driver of the program right now in terms of participation.
Okay, we have a motion?
I move that we terminate the partnership between the Woodbridge School District and the Wintergreen Magnet School effective June 30, 2019.
Okay. And again, this does not mean that if somebody wants to go to Wintergreen, they can't. It just eliminates our potential obligation to pay for 5 slots when we don't have 5 children attending. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Claire?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go back to our agenda now. I apologize to everybody. I'm going to give you back to Joyce. Thank you. Okay. So
And are you guys going on to?
we're going on to the regular meeting, so, and,
Okay.
you know, we're going to get the PTO update if you want to stay for that, and then the strategic plan presentation, which may or may not be.
I'm not trying to be a part of that.
Okay, well, then maybe we
I
should
get called
leave you
into a
okay.
meeting at 8 o'clock, but
Okay.
it's okay to hang on.
Okay, we're going to leave you right by Bob, so, you know, if you need us to mute you at any time, just let us know.
Okay, and I'll mute myself so you don't hear my background.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You
All
gonna
right.
mute me or mute her?
Bob, it depends. I don't know what to tell you. All right. So we are up to the PTO update. Yay! Yay! We have a lot of people to update us tonight. Yay!
Well, we have some great news, and I think technically this is our last time we're going to see you guys because you meet after the school year ends.
June 17th is our next meeting, which is a few days after the end of the school year.
Yes,
Oh,
and I will be in Maine, so
Okay.
I think
We
this
call
is
you
it.
in. Call you? No. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Okay. So we just want to say it's Arts Week right now. It kicked off yesterday. We have family night on Thursday night. I don't know if you guys got to see when you drove in, but the Wave of Dreams has been installed. And if you can look at it up close, it's amazing because every little sheet of cloth was written on. And it was a student would write what their dreams were. And as the rain comes, sadly, that will turn into a tie-dye situation, but you can still kind of make out some of the kids' dreams, and you can really kind of see where, you know, the kids are like kindergarten aged versus the 6th graders, and some of the stuff they're writing is just amazing. So hopefully you guys will get a chance to look at that, and we're looking forward to our family night, arts night on Thursday night from 6 to 8. Let's see, our next PTO meeting will be May 23rd at 1 p.m. here in the library, and that'll follow our last taste testing of the year, which the kids are going to be sampling chives from Macero Farms. We're going to be talking in our meeting at 1 o'clock about all we've accomplished this year, which has been quite incredible, and make plans for our next year. Let's see, we had, I'm going to just go into real quick some of the communication things that we've implemented this year. We've now have inclusion in the principal's message. We created PT board for BRS, so over on brs.ptboard.com. That has been life-changing for us. It's where we communicate everything, all of our posts for upcoming events and announcements, the volunteer sign-ups, calendars, PTO online student directory, order forms and payments to order your beachwear, get your tickets, your hoop bracelets, Arts Week t-shirts, graduation dues, and we also put our minutes from our meetings now, and the first time ever, because we have our new treasurer, Maria, we're going to be doing a end-of-year executive report summarizing everything that's come in and everything that's gone out. And that'll get probably posted sometime this summer when we've got all that information.
Close to June 30th.
Yeah. We established a PTO Facebook page a couple of years ago, and we're up to 376 members, and we're growing. Every week I see more people asking to join. It's a closed group. We're holding PTO meetings at night 3 to 4 times a year, along with our superintendent academies, in hopes of reaching those who can't come to our monthly meetings that we have in the morning that work best for our board at that time. We're going to be looking into some new things in the future. We're hoping to add a link to the BRS website homepage. We heard some talk that, every few years you like to get a new sprucing of the website, and that would be, we've gotten some feedback that if it's hard to find us sometimes. So if there was a link right on the BRS homepage, then you could click on that. That would shoot them maybe right to the BRS PT board, and they would have everything that they're looking for. We're going to be creating a beginning of the year brochure with all of our events listed for the year, an end of the year brochure, maybe not this year, but we're going to, do something on a smaller scale, listing everything we've accomplished and include an executive report, so that there's transparency on what we've made and what was spent. We're going to start tooting our own horn, as Mr. Gilbert has encouraged us to do. We're going to be placing plaques on our donated enhancements, such as the new climbing wall in South Gym and the water fountains, and anything else we decide to do. So now, to talk about some really good news we have, we just had our first ever BRS Owls Fun Run. That took place on May 2nd, and we raised over $30,000. So that's huge. So we are really, really excited. It was quite a daunting undertaking, but we've learned a lot from that experience. Definitely that we're doing it again. We are super excited because this type of fundraising allowed us to include outside of mom and dad. It reached, in this case, we were able to reach friends and family in 31 states and in 8 countries, which we've never been able to do with any of our fundraising efforts. So it's kind of like fundraising for the future, if you will. That was, it was only our first year, so only 61% of our students pledged, which is 516 students. And as we've seen with Quasi and other fundraisers that we've done, the first year is usually a little bit slow, but then people know what it is, it becomes a tradition, and you get, 85% participation, so it'll be even more money next year. There are different versions of this program that we could do this year because we wanted to really have somebody just teach us how to do everything from A to Z. We did what they call their event version, which was like their full, they do everything version. And in that scenario, they keep a larger amount of the donations, or percentage, I should say, of the donations, the split. But then next year, we're going to be able to do the live version, which allows us to keep more of a higher percentage of the donations. What was really cool about it, I was here pretty much every day for, I don't know, a month. But it was really cool to see the momentum and how it built with the teachers, the staff. I mean, literally everyone was involved. Every kid got a t-shirt. That was thanks to all of our business sponsorships in the community. And they're going to be using them again, from my understanding, for Fun Run. Field Day, in June. And, it was just a really cool way, I think, to build community, promote wellness, and celebrate school spirit. And we're excited to think of how we can do that in the future, but we don't know. We've got a lot to figure out, what time of year, all of those good things. I think, we just had Quasi Night, which was hugely successful. We got to have our first Quasi Night ever on a Friday night. Usually it's Thursday night. And we also joined up with Bethany Community School this year. So that was a neat way to, some of the kids know each other from T-ball to all kinds of, scouts, whatever. And this was a really neat way to bring those two schools together. And the weather could not have been more perfect. It had rained up until, I think, 4:35. And then the sun came out, and it was just a glorious evening. And it was the highest attendance we've ever had. So that was really, really great. I think that's all I have for now.
Did anybody have any questions for Joy?
I just want to thank you all in the PTO for all the hard work that you do. I know that it's a tremendous amount of work, and it's often a thankless job, but as Joy, you and I have spoken extensively, I wanted to give you a heads up that there has been a lot of noise in the community among teachers and among parents for a couple of different reasons, but I want to preface all that I'm going to say by just saying that we're very, very grateful for all that you do. And so what I am about to say, I don't want that to take away from how grateful we are for what you do and our appreciation. But the noise that we have been hearing is, I think, for a couple of different reasons. One is the highly aggressive tactics that were used. I mean, people were getting bombarded all which way with messages. I think people, when they found out that about 50% of the proceeds were going to a vendor, people were a little aghast at that amount. Also, a big part of a couple of days of school days were affected. And so I think your idea of campusing parents and teachers to get their input, I think is a really, really great idea. I'm also very aware of the pressure that you all feel in fundraising. And so maybe we can take a look at some of the programs that you feel would be at risk if we didn't raise a certain amount of money. I also recognize the challenge of volunteer organizations in recruiting people. It's very, very hard to do. And but we do have experts around. I mean, we have Margaret, who was a very successful PTO president and was able to bring in and recruit a lot of people over her time. We also have Yale SOM that we might be able to leverage their expertise because they pride themselves in this space. But I guess what I'm trying to say is let's do this together, because it is a big task that you have. It just so happens that this particular booster-thon created a lot of, I guess, that noise, for lack of a better description, in the community.
And so I just want to clarify, when you say we, you're talking as a parent?
As a parent,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, because the Board of Education is not, we're not talking about our
No, I'm sorry,
oversight.
yes.
No, I just
This
wanted to
is
make
it,
sure
right.
that people understood that Joyce's comments are as a parent
Yes,
and
in
as
the
somebody who's
community.
heard information from parents. So technically, you have to sign up for public comment.
I did sign up.
Okay, and when we get to public comment, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I know.
No problem.
I know it.
That's why I raised my hand.
Okay, all right. And I just want to say, with Joyce, her initial comments, the PTO does an amazing job of, creating community, and I know, fundraising is a part of, of what's done, sometimes, and sometimes it's not. The socials and things like that, are things that you give back, as community builders, all of the special activities, Julie Collier and the birds, and, there's just so much. So I think that your idea about, summarizing, for parents, like, this is all the stuff that went on. Did you have any idea the PTO even does this? Because a lot of people don't realize that. And, your idea of having something at the beginning of the year that says, this is the whole, the whole 9 yards, I think that's a great idea too. So I do want to just say thank you again. We try to say thank you every time you come.
You do say thank you every time.
Okay. And I don't know if everybody knows everybody, so
Yeah, I
maybe you
was
could just
gonna
introduce
suggest that.
your
Yeah, so that
executive
we can
board.
acknowledge
I'm not sure if
the
you call it the executive board, but
This is
if
the
you could
executive
introduce-
board.
Okay, that's great.
You want to stand up and introduce yourselves?
Thank you.
Lauren Esposito, PTO co-president. Andrea Polinsky, PTO co-president.
Jessica Sobolski, Communications.
Christy Layden. I don't know what my title.
Fundraising.
I get confused. It was one thing and it changed.
You weren't here when they gave you that.
We do it all.
That's what's confusing. We do truly do everything.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I want to point out that is really important.
Wait,
for-
Maria
I'm sorry,
too.
Maria, go
Oh,
ahead.
that's okay. Maria Madonna, treasurer.
She's like
That's
very
okay.
important.
Thank you for introducing yourselves.
So these ladies, literally, when we do the executive report and you see what we've done this year especially, it is mind-boggling, really, and it's us. So that's, one of the challenges we're facing is that it is 6 or 7 of us that do everything, and that's on both ends, bringing the money in and coordinating all of the special everythings, everything from book fairs to book swap to taste testing to the socials to, I could go on and on. So, to your point, and I love that, and that's one of the things we're absolutely going to do, is enlighten people. I did go to I presented at all of the open houses, and I don't know if people are just overwhelmed or if they're just, I don't know what it is, but this has all been stated. And in that forum, there's a lot of people that hear it, but it's still really difficult to get people aware of what it is that we do. So we're going to work on that, and we're happy to hear any ideas. Obviously, because there's just us trying to figure all of this out. The other thing too is, as far as the fun run goes, the concerns, we understand that, and what's great about it is doing a different version of it next year would eliminate the missed classroom time that they had 10 minutes a day during their specials during the fun run, but we're going to take that on instead, and maybe they'll see a video or something in their classroom at their teacher's choice of when to do that. So it won't be sort of like a 2-week pep rally, which, was part of doing the version of it that we did this year. I don't know, have I covered all of your concerns?
One other thought would be the timing of it. So it
Yes.
happened before SBAC, so I've heard some people say the timing was not ideal. So maybe another time of the year.
Absolutely, yeah, we're thinking, so the hoot is, we're not sure what the future of the hoot is since Dan has decided to move on to other things. So that was a large, money maker, nothing close to what the fun run could do, but it was still our largest one, and so we're trying to figure out a way. That's why we chose something. We knew we needed, when Dan was stepping down, we needed some substantial way without 100 people volunteering, because we clearly don't have the volunteers to make this money, so that we didn't have to cut the Bird Lady or any of these wonderful programs that we have.
And it sounds like, it sounds like, your plan to get together and go through, what happened and how you want to do things, and again, Bob included in those discussions and stuff. I think that's all great. I think you had something to say. You were starting to say something before, or no?
So I guess what I would just say is that I think the PTO is a very reflective executive committee, and they whether it's the fun run, whether it's anything, there's attending those meetings once a month is it's really awesome to see what 6 or 7 people are doing for 850 students and all the families. But I will say that, in each of the meetings that you have, what I watch as I come in for a little bit here and a little bit there is true dialogue, reflection. How do we do this? How do we do it better? What should we change? What should we keep? That kind of a thing. And I know that conversation has already happened, and Joy, you've already talked a little bit about alluding to how we would sort of take the best parts of what we saw this past month and move forward in a way that also addresses some of the things that we want to see changed. And I think, that's already happened. That'll continue to take place, I'm sure, even at the meeting this week. I think also, the communication's a funny thing. We put out, getting people to come to meetings. Even if you try to put a superintendent's forum with an engaging topic like an internet safety at home or ADL at a time when that was really a very engaging topic because of the community relation, not many people show up. So I think, communicating out whatever changes there might be, we've talked a little bit about that, I think will be, hopefully people will read, whatever the PTO sends out as a sort of a summary. I also think that, many of us come to realize or don't realize that this actual fundraiser, as I understand it, actually took less of a percentage than the other fundraisers we have in place. We have, pictures, picture day, book fair, the Scholastic Book Fair, take a higher percentage than Booster-a-thon. And we know those particular, those are standard things we've done for years, maybe even decades. And there's also class time missed for those kinds of things. Kids have to step out of class to go get the picture taken. They have to step out of class to go to look at, peruse books, which is, someone might say there's value in that. So I think it's just putting the whole package and just kind of standing back. All of us are reflecting on the whole thing. I think is just an interesting. I never thought about it that way. What are we?
That's a good point.
So anyway, I think without belaboring, I would say that I think the PTO is well on their way to what I've just heard tonight and what we've already talked about, Joy and I, and I think in the school administration especially, Gina and Lisa, just taking it to the next step.
Did anybody have any other questions for Joy or anyone else? And thank you again. We can't say thank you enough. We don't say thank you enough because nobody says thank you enough. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, Mr. Gilbert, we've made it up to you.
Okay. Again, thank you.
Oh, Claire, are you still on?
I am. It was hard to hear that conversation, but so hopefully wherever Bob is presenting, he can.
Bob's going to
both
take you
closer
with
down.
him. Bob's going to take you with him to the microphone, and we'll get out of the way.
Well,
I assume it's-
I'm first doing my announcement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course you are.
Yep, and then we'll do that. So, hi Claire, so hopefully you can hear me. I'm right next to you,
Thanks
even
so
though you
much.
can't see me. So I'll be doing my superintendent announcements, and then Mrs. Prisco will just follow up with a few of the principal announcements as well. So just to kind of encapsulate last night, we're very, very appreciative of the support of our town. The annual town meeting happened last night. The town budget got approved, and the Beecher Road School budget got approved for 2019-2020. And so we are moving forward with all of our current programs and staffing and adding a few positions as well. So we're grateful to the town and for all those of you who have been part of this process. Again, we had a wonderful time before this board meeting started, congratulating and hearing about our 5 6th grade CAPS award winners this year. And so again, we recognize Cashlyn Canine, Sadie Canine, Liam Coyne, Alex Klee, and Sophia Messina. And it was a wonderful time together. The teacher assistant negotiation process has started, and the teacher negotiation process will be getting started very soon. So just know those processes are underway in going forward. Congratulations to our newest board members from the recent election. Dan Cowan, who's in the audience tonight, Jeffrey Townsend, as well as Jeff Hughes were elected as new members, and there are some around the table here who have been re-elected, so congratulations to you as well. And I'm holding certainly an orientation for any new board members, inviting them in to meet with them individually, and provides an opportunity to get to know people, new board members, and answer some questions as we start the transition process. Speaking of the transition process, as we move into July, when our new board members get seated, we have secured Rebecca Adams from CAVE, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, to lead our July retreat. We are still looking for all board members to get back to Marcia regarding your date availability, preferences, so we need to move forward on that as soon as possible. So if you have not done so, please be in touch with Marcia. This is Arts Week, but I'm not going to steal any of the thunder. I'm going to let Mrs. Prisco talk about that in a few moments. We also mentioned, obviously, about SBAC testing a few moments ago. The main part of testing is done, and we're into the makeup testing, which gets completed as we're able to have access to students who maybe have been sick and come back to school. We've already talked about Wintergreen this evening, so I will not talk about that because we've already taken our vote and we talked a little bit about that. I'm excited to tell you that we have back and forth. We've already done those things. We had Staff and Teacher Appreciation Week just recently, and we celebrated and recognized our teachers, our teacher assistants, our nurses, all the people on our staff. We're grateful to our faculty and staff for what they do for our Beecher Road School students. I recently attended the minority and shortage area teacher recruitment fairs that were held in Wallingford as well as in Hamden. It was great to be there amongst other districts and other organizations. Unfortunately, there was a very small turnout in these particular recruitment fairs, but we'll continue to be part of those in the future as we explore ways to continue to increase the diversity of our teaching and all-encompassing staff. Hiring process, we have really moved along. We have filled our position for speech and language with offering a position to Christina Renzoni. We've also filled our part-time accounts payable position for next year. Kimberly Counter has been brought on and hired. Starts July 1st. And Marie Akinbora for payroll and benefits as well on July 1st. We are completing our processes as we speak for the MAG position, for EL and resource room positions, as well as our one-year music opening. So we are just about at the tail end of all of that, and a lot of time has been put in by our administration and some of our teachers as part of recruitment, hiring process teams, so we're feeling good about where we are. I also wanted to mention that Beth Cohen of B&B Transportation has agreed to stay on for another year as our transportation coordinator, and we're very appreciative of Beth's assistance and commitment to that.
One day
Yes, yes, she got her flowers, but she's coming back, which is good. We appreciate it.
about that.
Yeah.
Be careful, she wants to retire.
She did
Retirement,
retire.
it's not-
She came back.
no, it's not. No, she's not. Well,
came out of
she's not
retirement.
retiring. She was stepping away from one part of her job, but she's still. I talk to her a lot of times at 5 o'clock in the morning, on when the little snowflakes are coming down. So just to kind of wrap up the last part of my comments is that 6th grade graduation, can you believe it, is happening on Wednesday, June 12th, and the last day for students is Thursday, June 13th. And with that, I'll have Mrs. Prisco complete the rest of our school and district information.
Okay. I just want to make sure, does anybody have any questions for anything that Mr. Gilbert went over? No? Thank you. That was a lot. It was very, very good.
Well, thank you. So I won't repeat, but I do want to say thank you to the PTO. Great group of people to work with,
but always willing to go above and beyond. And so many of the things that our children do experience that are, and you've heard them today, Birds of Prey, the Earth Balloon, which the folks from Boosterthon got to see Earth Balloon. So for them, it was like, so this is what all this goes for. Our appreciation, snacks and delicious treats, always wonderful. So thank you again for all that you do. And as Margaret said, we don't say thank you enough. So it is Arts Week, and you heard a little bit about it. Hence, today is secondary colors. So I needed to have purple, orange, and green. Kind of hard to do, but got it accomplished. And so our children are participating and trying to support and be part of the spirit of Arts Week. If you walk around the building, yes, the wave, but the walls of Beecher, it's one of the things that is just so unreal when you start the year and the walls are just kind of white. And you walk down the hall and there is just color and art everywhere. And what is also really great is that some of the projects are in the works of art are individual, but so many of them are collaborative. And so, you think about, we go in, we draw a little picture and we take it home. It doesn't always work that way, and it's kind of like preparing children to work in the workplace. You have to work with other people and compromise and make decisions about what's going to go where. So just if you have a chance, take a look. It's beautiful. Bob mentioned we had some 6th grade things going on. DARE graduation. Kind of what I say, the preview to the big day on June 12th. A little different this year. Amity had some changes to their schedule, so we are actually going back to being a day before the last day of school for the promotion ceremony. But our DARE graduation, I have to say, Officer Lynch, we love having him. He does an amazing job. Children all look at him because he's in his full dress blues and it's so very formal, but it's a great day. Anybody who was there, a few with teary eyes of parents, could be their first, could be their last, but it was also a great day. We look forward to beautiful weather for our concert, afternoon and evening tomorrow, and lots of celebrations going on, writing celebrations, reading. Children are excited about publishing pieces. We have wrapped up a couple of curriculum pieces. One is our community helpers, which is a mini project-based learning unit for 2nd grade. So students get to choose an area that they wanted to learn about. Could be finance, could be public works, could be first responders, could be education. Ms. Sherman and I were grilled. 22 questions, I think there were. I think there were 22 questions, and we were like, wow. So
Some were hard.
it was, yes. Some of them are easy. Well, what does a principal do after school? I'm like, do I go home? No. So I have to say, it's really student-centered, but it's a small piece of interest-based learning for them, and they just really come up with some amazing things, and they get a great experience, and they get to know people from the community, so I thank the 2nd grade team for that. Also, I've been talking to you a lot about our units of study in phonics in kindergarten and 1st grade, about to go to 2nd grade next year as an addition to our units of study in reading and writing. If you are here for Arts Week, please take a look at the walls in the 1st grade hallway. Vowel Town was created. So kindergartners have vowel shields, while 1st graders have Vowel Town. Collaboration, decisions on what vowels are more important, where do they go, what words do they belong in, but there are these murals on the walls with Vowel Town. So please do take a minute to take a look. And if you talk to kindergarten or 1st grade teachers, something that we struggle with sometimes is we teach something and then we want to see it applied. Well, the transfer that we are seeing, because it is so natural and being done in the students reading and writing in their work, the application is really something that we're really excited about. Our band, as we know, is having our concert. They'll also be in the Memorial Day Parade, and they have their adjudication coming up. And one final thing about Boosterthon. If you had an opportunity to hear from your children, Ms. Sherman and I created a little video right before the day of the fun run. Early that morning, we jumped into the pool. And also found out that, as we were kind of using the locker rooms after, this water's not really that warm. So great fun. It's how we closed off each session of Booster-a-thon with a little congratulations and us jumping into the pool. And so it was quite a good community day. That is it for me. So unless there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have two comments. One is about phonics, and I just wanted to remind people that we're hoping that at the September curriculum or October curriculum committee meeting, that there will be a presentation on the phonics program. So if you're interested in that, we invite you to keep an eye out for the
Lots of people who want to talk about it.
ongoing curriculum committee meetings this fall. And the second thing is in regard to the Dear graduation. One thing that I found particularly heartwarming was that a former Beecher Road School student who is now a senior in high school came and was the keynote speaker at the Dear graduation. It warmed my heart because this was a product of our school district, and she came and spoke to the 6th grade students about her experience here and how it affected her life as she went on to the middle school and the high school. It was just really, her name is Kobe Spence, and I think she did an amazing job. She was so inspirational for those 6th grade students, and so I wanted to just take a moment to recognize her.
One thing I said to her afterwards was, you reached the children in no way that any of us
Absolutely.
older adults could do. She had her lion that she received in her Dear graduation. She brought it with her.
Yes.
And she honestly captured that audience of 6th graders. So thank you for bringing that up.
And
It really was.
kudos also to Vinnie Lynch, who sought her out. And she was so honored to be asked to come back. So Vinnie does a great job, so I congratulate him as well.
Actually, Lynn, if I could follow up on the phonics issue, content or subject that we're going to be talking about at the curriculum committee meeting. I had the opportunity to sit down with Gina and with Monique McDonald and Liz Hagney, and I think maybe if we have time to actually maybe talk about the whole, not just phonics for the younger grades, but to see the progression of how ELA is being taught throughout the grades, because I think what they're trying to do is have a smoother transition. The approach is changing, and I think after the summer, when you guys have a chance to put together the plans for how vocabulary and spelling will be taught for some of the middle grades, by that time we'll be able to have a more robust conversation about how things look. Sure. That sound good?
Yeah, it follows. Yeah, it was a good conversation. I came a little late, but it was good. Anything else for me?
So,
Claire, did you?
Margaret, this is Claire. Yeah, can I just jump in? I couldn't hear Ms. Cisco if she mentioned it, but I did want to take the time to thank her and Ms. Sherman for coming on Saturday to Mr. Bee's retirement party. I think it was not just a retirement party; it was a recognition of 25 years of a successful multi-age group that Beecher has sustained and supported. And it's really just an incredibly powerful experience to see so many generations come back to honor that the traditions of MAG and the project-based learning principles that it supports. So I just wanted to thank them and also recognize that event that happened over the past week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was wonderful.
So now,
Yep.
Thank you.
As I get ready to do the strategic plan, I just want to say, Mrs. Piasek you may have not blown your own horn, because I think you were a teacher of our DARE keynote speaker.
I
So
was.
let's make sure that we recognize that You were one of Kobe's tutors.
I was Kobe's
Yeah.
first grade.
And also, yes, so congratulations to you as well for what your building blocks in her moving forward. I also wanted to say that, again, the DARE program is another example of the camaraderie and the support of many, including our PTO, for funding parts, I believe, of the days, the pizza or whatever. I can't remember. There may be other things too. The police department
And the Rotary.
and the Rotary department and the Rotary Club. So, so it's a very important partnership, and we very appreciate all of you who are here in the room and those who are watching on our Access TV who are part of that.
Before you start, I just wanted to ask the group, the strategic plan update is so important.
Bob, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Claire. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go into a meeting, so I'm not going to be able to be on the line for the strategic plan update. Will there be opportunities next meeting to provide feedback to what you're presenting today, or is it just today? I don't want to miss my window.
So,
I think Margaret.
So here's the thing. Tonight should have 9 members here, listening to the strategic plan update. It's going to be on TV. I think anybody who's not here will ask to watch the presentation. If there are specific questions, I think we can bring them up in the environment when we get to June 3rd, I think, because I do think that that's part of our preparation for that meeting. And so any questions that we have, we will have the opportunity to put those to Bob at that June 3rd session.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Could you hear that, Claire? Were you able to hear that?
I was. Thank you very much. Okay, great. So what you're presenting tonight is sort of a work in progress proposed update then?
I would call it, it's a high-level summary of what we've accomplished thus far and what the renewed priorities are moving forward as we have sort of, things have been accomplished, we're sunsetting those kinds of things, and what things have kind of grown out of those or have been new conversations that are already getting started and are ready to be moved forward on. So I think, I'm always listening, and any plan like this ebbs and flows as you move along, as you find that you're able to complete things or need more time. So I'm looking at it as sort of a roadmap as we're getting ready for the next year moving forward.
And I do think the new board, when, this is obviously a key part of the discussion at the retreat, is this is the plan. This is, what the priorities are, what's being worked on, how it's rolling out. So the new board will, this is going to be a key part of the retreat discussion. And I think that the dates on it go through 2020. So it was a plan that Bob presented to us, I think, in January of 2017, and has changed over time and is a key part of the discussion to validate and modify as needed, if there's changing priorities when the new board gets together.
Right. Okay, if you could just indulge me for one more second. I did take a look at it, and I think it's a testament to how much you've accomplished and how there is flexibility to look at new goals in light of that, which I think is a great thing. I do think some of the areas identified should maintain priority. Particularly I thought there was a line about project-based learning. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear.
Sorry. So I just wanted to say, I know obviously the new board will provide input, but I do think it is important to maintain a commitment to project-based learning. We've done a lot at Beecher to implement broader project-based learning opportunities, beyond MAG, which is great. I think they should continue to be evaluated and improved upon. And then I also think, part of our strategic plan should also reflect the priority of, continuing to support and recognize the value of MAG and the strong community that supports the traditions behind MAG. So that was just the one piece that I was hoping to provide a little feedback on, and look forward to opportunities to provide more. And again, I apologize for not being there in person.
Can I follow on Claire's
Claire,
comments?
Joyce is going to continue a comment. I don't know if you're still there or not. She's going to follow up on your comments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I am.
it seems like there's an opportunity to improve with this project-based learning and the enrichment clusters, because whenever you start something new, there's a learning curve. And so I think we have an opportunity to leverage skill sets that already exist here with our MAG teachers. I mean, they are uniquely situated to help us to be consultants with respect to enrichment clusters, purposeful, playful learning, as well as project-based learning. This is what they do day in, day out. So we've got these people here, and I'm sure if we asked them, they probably would say yes.
So I think probably what we should do is go ahead with the strategic plan overview, and Bob, you can let us know how you want input, either hold it till the end or whatever. So, but if we go ahead with where things are, and a key part of the document now is what are the next steps. So I think that's going to be very helpful for all of us.
Certainly. Claire, I'm going to hand the phone. This is your phone, right? Yeah.
I had one hand last time.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Bye, Claire. Bye. Did you want us to hold all of our questions and comments until the very end? How did you want to?
I think it might be helpful. I'm really going to try to go at a high level and sort of summarize as we go along. I'm not going to read every single thing. So maybe perhaps it might be for continuity to be able to actually present the whole thing and then go back and have questions about whatever slides there might be. Sure. So I'll go where the microphone is. That's helpful. Not that we're a big group. Is the microphone even working?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So first of all, I think first and foremost, I know someone mentioned one of the board comments was, thanks for the work you're doing, Bob. But this is not the work that Bob's doing. This is the work that our very dedicated teaching and administrative staff is doing, and I really mean our teaching staff at the very forefront. It's amazing what people have done above and beyond their normal work, and I've said that in each of these presentations because it's absolutely true that that there is a lot of work to do even if you didn't do anything on this plan, and then this is all as we try to move the organization forward. So I want to really first and foremost thank all of our teachers, our staff, the support of our administration at the building level for what they have done over these past 2.5 years to move forward and really develop lots of things and actually see things to completion and be ready to poise for the next. So thank you. And some of those teachers and administrators are in this room, so thank you for those. Just as you know, this is a page you've seen before, our mission and vision and beliefs in this next iteration of this plan. Don't change, of course. This is something that we spent a lot of time and investment in having stakeholders develop, agree on, and move forward. It's posted around the building, and it's something that we adhere to and try to continue to refer back to. Also in this particular high-level summary of the next version of this plan, these 5 goals continue to be the driving force behind what we're doing, and everything we're doing is really hooked into these 5 goals of academic standards and expectations, personalized learning, professional learning, partnerships, community and diversity, and maximizing efficiencies. So those 5 goals continue to drive forward what we are trying to do. The next slides are going to, as you can see, so the way they're laid out is the goals are at the top, and those are, again, the 5 goals that I just referred to. You're going to see the original priorities in the blue area at the top, and then the renewed priorities, the next level of work. Some of that is continuing the work, and some of it is some new things that we're venturing off to. And then each adjoining page after that will give a little more detail as to, okay, what did we actually accomplish in those original priorities at the top? And at the bottom, what is our game plan? What are some of the to-dos we're going to do in those new, renewed priorities? So again, goal 1, about academic standards, expectations, moving the students forward as collaborators, creative thinkers. Our priorities from the first, or from the past, we have created the mission, vision, and beliefs, as I mentioned. They are created, implemented, displayed, and referred to, and hopefully guide what we do. Also in those original priorities, we have developed strategy and structure for curriculum work. We've moved that forward. We have done an enormous amount of math and science curriculum revision work in the past few years, and that is really forms the basis for where we're moving forward. So those original priorities have been well served. As we renew those priorities and move forward, on the bottom of the page, we want to complete some of the work that we did in curriculum that we started off with and expand that as well. We also want to maximize and coordinate our Beecher and Amity curriculum work. So our students leave in 6th grade, and it makes sense as to where they're going, as they enter 7th grade. And then finally, we really want to have a more of a focus that the first plan really didn't have, but really to try to look a little bit closer, more discreetly at increasing student achievement, which is really one of the drivers, if not the biggest driver of what we're all about, making sure the students are well prepared for the future. So I'm not going to list all these actions, but as you can see, the actions around the first one about the curriculum is really, we are just about at the end of our math work. We have done K through 5. Our 6th grade work was done a few years ago, and we're going to be reviewing the work that they did on templates and resources and completing that. Science, we have a basis for grades 3 through 6 done, and we are really looking to try to move forward and complete assessments and get our kindergarten through 2nd grade work done. Social studies got started this year, and we're really trying to dig deeper into that and really move forward and complete grades 2 and 3 as a starting point. Social studies sometimes thought about as the forgotten subject area sometimes. And we also want to take stock of all of our curriculum areas and really try to create a curriculum revision map for the future. In terms of that second renewed priority, the Beecher Amity curriculum work, there's already movement afoot between our science department, namely our new STEAM teacher, as well as the other BOA districts, but also, of course, Amity, in terms of looking at the curriculum connections between grades 6 through 8. Curriculum in the new generation science standards is not just developed by grade levels, divided into sections, grades 6 through 8, 9 through 12, 3 through 5, K through 2. So it's important that we are connecting with our Amity partners in this for the benefit of our kids. So we want to do that this coming year, and then we want to do the same kind of alignment, ensuring success for our students K-12 in the other core content areas in the following year, and then eventually also address our unified arts specials from our level up to the middle school. Lastly, and again, goal 1 is very, very important. It's the basis for all that we're doing. We want to increase student achievement on state assessments. So we're looking at how we use our PLC team structure to continue to have vertical articulation, and also look at our assessments. So we're not assessing too much, but we're assessing the right things and have the right balance of assessment and instruction that's reflected in a calendar. We want to, in a sense, reinitiate the learning walk model. I'll talk more about that during goal number 3. Learning walks are a really wonderful and vital way to provide professional learning in a non-evaluative way for staff members as they learn from each other. We've implemented a new meeting this year called Instructional Cabinet, and the administrative team has made use of that for instructional purposes, and sometimes inviting in other teachers to that to help dialogue between ourselves and those instructional specialists, and we want to continue and enhance that. We talked about phonics a little while ago, and the phonics program has just been a wonderful, an amazing addition, and everybody who talks about phonics does it with a smile and a nod of the head. Wow, great. And so we want to implement grade 2 of that program during the course of this coming year. Obviously, it all goes to the idea of increasing our language arts achievement, and finally, do some collaborative goal setting towards our smarter balance, our testing, and the areas that we want to grow in. So that's goal number 1. I'm going to keep moving here. I probably won't go into that much detail on the other ones, but this is obviously goal 1 is a key one. Our second goal around personalized learning, again, it's the same concept. You'll see the original priorities on the top, the renewed priorities on the bottom of this page. Sustained support of our initiatives that are already taking place, expanding areas in math, guiding transitions in our TAG, identification and programming, and providing consistent academic communication to parents. And so, what I would just simply say at the top of this slide, on the original priorities, there's been a lot of work. Teachers have been amazing at Beecher Road School in terms of what they've done for clusters in grades 3 and 4, the Genius Hour, which is a project-based learning initiative in grade 5, the Capstone in grade 6. Nancy's here tonight, and certainly she could probably expound on it quite a bit, but that's another project-based learning concept and endeavor. And in grade 2, we talked about community helpers. Grade 2 is also is a hybrid of that as well. A lot of time has been gone into this. This is something that the board had a very deep and passionate feeling about this, I know, several years back, and a lot of work's been done. So how do we move forward in this? What we really want to do is we want to, in the bottom here, the renewed priorities, number 1, we want to provide support to teams, in whatever way that looks, to let teams move forward in developing what they want to do at their own level, at their own speed, in their own areas. Some of the things that are going to happen there is to make sure that we can address scheduling and try to address curriculum integration. 6th grade has done a tremendous community service edition, and we heard that earlier today during the CAPS Awards with one of our CAPS Award winners about how they've gone down to the 4th grade. We want to increase rigor and options in the clusters area. So those are things, we want to provide support to teachers in how they want to move that forward. We also want to pilot more innovative practices like our makerspace, and we've used a grant to now purchase 3D printers and to purchase other materials to actually make the makerspace a reality as we move forward. And we also want to review how purposeful play as a personalized learning methodology and philosophy in our youngest grades, how we move forward in next steps. We've talked a lot, and a lot came about in math through our ad hoc committee earlier in the year. We want to expand differentiation, math workshop, and curriculum compacting. Next month, you're going to hear in the third area of our new priorities, we want to be able to take a look at how do we continue to address TAG, identification process, and programming. And so you'll be hearing more about that next month, especially the identification part of that. But it's something that we want to definitely look at next year as part of our renewed priorities. And finally, consistent grade level communications. We want to be able to make sure that we have the right information, consistent information across each teacher at grade level, and also consistently as we present it from grade level to grade level on how parents can be informed about what we're doing in math and how they might be able to support that, and what homework looks like when it comes home and what does it all mean. So personalized learning is taking now renewed priorities as described here on the bottom. Our third goal is professional learning. Our original priorities have been, I believe, met in a very, very effective way. We've established the PLC model, and for some people it was a reestablishment, but we established that. We have, for a small district, an amazing differentiated professional learning plan for our certified staff. And that continues to be something that is owned and guided by a very collaborative group, administration and teachers together. So as we renew the priorities for professional learning, because teachers' growth is important to student growth, what we want to do is to use that PLC model. And for those of you who are not sure, PLC, so it's professional learning community. Our second grade teachers are PLC group. They work together, our third grade, our first grade, our kindergarten, every grade level. And we look at our specialists, PLC, working together. We want to be able to maximize that time and look now more at data, analysis, sharing, how it impacts curriculum. We want to do more with that and actually move the bar on that. And some grade levels are already doing that, and we can be models for each other within our building. The second priority, I believe, is a really important one. We want to do the same thing for our non-certified staff, especially our teaching assistants, as we're doing for our certified staff. We want to provide more professional learning, more that's meaningful to them in their specific job, and to try to create times in some systematic way during the course of the year where that can take place. So that is a key one for us as we move forward. Teacher assistants want that, and we want to do everything we possibly can to make that a reality. The third part is the learning walks as a professional learning tool. And so we're looking forward to trying to introduce that and really introduce it in a way where it's more of a volunteer, interested staff way of rolling that out. We don't want it to be another initiative that people have to do. We want to do it with people who are really looking to do that and get involved where they feel like they have the time and they have that interest, and then eventually move that forward for everybody. Our fourth goal about community and diversity, I think one of the things that we've been very richly blessed with is the Community Diversity Committee. It's an opportunity that we have never had before, bringing parents, teachers, administration, Board of Education members together to have conversations that we have not had before. So from that particular perspective and our original priorities, establishing that has been, I think, very enriching. We haven't spent as much time with partnerships, or haven't been able to move some of those things like partnerships within the community, or more so regionally and globally. So that's some areas that we really need to think about how we might do that and how that plays out and where's the time for that. So again, community diversity as we renew the priorities. Part of this, again, is we go back to social emotional learning and support. You can see that our responsive classroom, our Safe School Climate Plan are main drivers of that. How we collaborate in climate and think about our community diversity committee and work together and how that might overlay with our climate committee. We want to look at how we can maybe embed and combine the groups of the diversity committee and climate committee together to have more coherence and also to have perhaps greater impact. And lastly, as I mentioned before, the very last renewed priority is really trying to take this step forward of where we can develop partnerships that we haven't had them before. We have some great partnerships that are going on in town. Our student council does amazing things with a partnership with seniors, but they're looking at regionally or globally. I think it's an area that we have an area to grow in. And finally, the fifth goal is our system efficiencies and resources. Our original priorities, a lot of time has been spent on restructuring the SRBI model, scientifically research-based interventions, or intervention model, if you will. This year we've moved into a format where there's a primary and an intermediate team, and trying to bring the people closest to those students together in a more collaborative way, as well as a way that brings in all areas of a student's need. So we've done a lot of work with that. We've established a beautification committee. Lots of work has been done in our large spaces, South Assembly, South Gym, our entranceway, some of our hallways. So some absolutely tangible and enhancing aesthetics. And we've also spent time looking at other kinds of processes, structures, and areas for efficiencies. Shared services, transportation, revenue streams, communication, efficiency models, which is an area that we need to really take a look at, especially with the way the economics are working as we look forward. So our renewed priorities in this whole area is, again, continue on the SRBI path to see if we can further develop our data collection and tools and processes, and eventually really implement and take a look at how we implement more precise interventions. The second renewed priority is one I think that's going to be very, very key, the fiscal strategies, future budget planning. We know that the board needs to take a look at what the realities of future budgets in town are going to be like. We had a little time talking about that during our Finance Committee meeting earlier this evening. Budget reduction or budget savings strategies, we need to be able to determine how we can work together with the town with limited resources. We've had a very exciting sustainability ad hoc committee start in the past several months. We have applied to and have become deemed a Greenleaf school, and we have a green team. The green team is actually our ad hoc sustainability group, and they will continue on the path to start and carry on sustainability efforts. Facility stewardship has become more and more of a topic that we've heard about in meetings. We know that we need to make sure that we take care of this building and we are able to improve the areas that we have discovered that may not have been completely encapsulated in the building project. So we are certainly working together with our town collaborators, our town hall people, as well as our facilities consultants to do that. And finally, the last one, efficiencies, roles, staffing, processes, and structures. Again, this is an area that in some ways may link a little bit to the second priority of the fiscal strategies. We need to take a look at how we can move forward some things we've already started with. We've started to take a look at how our accounts payable position can use the new technology to be more efficient. But there's other areas of efficiencies that we haven't really embarked on yet. And some of those are in scheduling, some of those are still in shared services, outsourcing, and so we'll be looking at that as well as a renewed priority. So that's a very, very broad brush, and I appreciate your patience in me moving through those main topics, and I'd be glad to go back and answer any one of those or try to just listen to your thoughts and reflections on those.
Okay, so if it's okay, maybe we'll just go through it goal by goal and just see if anybody has any particular comments or questions. So goal 1. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess in the way that this is laid out, it was hard for me to understand. I guess I couldn't really see to what extent we had growth in student achievement. And so maybe there's another chart that you might have that more clearly lays out all of that, because what we're after at the end of the day is making sure that what we're teaching is what we should be teaching and the way that we should be teaching it. So right now it feels very much like, we completed this, we completed this. So if we could, maybe you have something else that you might be able to show us more along the lines of how are our students doing? Are they growing?
So I think, this is, the renewed priorities at the bottom are how we're looking forward in the future to address that. So these are things we haven't done yet, these are things we're about to do. I think our accountability report that we provided in March or April talked about growth of students, talked about the different levels, where we were with that. So I'm not sure if that's getting to your question.
Yeah, I guess I would want to see a relationship with what we're doing with whatever gaps that showed up in our accountability report. So a closer tie.
Right.
So I do think in some other sections you do talk a little bit about some of the other evaluation that goes on in the database. We're looking at data by student and things like that. The accountability, plan is the SBAC evaluation, which is one, point in time evaluation. We have our own internal, evaluations. So say for the new math curriculum, and again, it's been implemented over time, and we're finishing the 6th grade curriculum this coming year. So I think maybe what you're looking for is to say, okay, given that some grades have had the new curriculum and are using the workshop model and have already, seen some of the new curriculum implemented over enough time for us to see if they're, what the changes are, that might be helpful to see. Again, SBAC, it's tough to use that. It's so big. But I know we also have our internal assessments, especially in math, And, well, not especially math, we do it, but look at, again, for groups that have had the new curriculum for long enough for us to see, a change. I mean, obviously, 6th grade doesn't even have it yet, but some of the other grades have had it, over the years we've been doing it. It's been implemented as it's developed, which is fantastic. And so, maybe we can see what you've seen so far in the changes to the curriculum, what impact you've seen on learning because of the new curriculum.
Thank you, Margaret, that would be very helpful.
And I just wanted to say I'm very excited that math is almost done. I know I understand that curriculum cycles are long. I do understand that, kind of. But so I'm very excited to see that we're finishing that. And I know that you're working with Amity, and I think that's great because we're closer rather than further apart. With the middle school, I know science. You're talking to them, and I think that's great. I also love that some of the issues that we had with, action plan because of SBACs and things, that it's integrated into the strategic plan. And that we don't just have like a separate action plan we're doing based on, things we want to do. We're saying we want to increase student achievement, particularly in, the state assessments, since that's a big, part of how people look at us externally. So I love that it's part of the strategic plan and it's not a separate action plan, which, I think is fantastic. So I love that you integrated this in here. And I also think that the second item, maximize, coordinate, beat Amity. I don't think we can overstate that. Our kids don't go into the world; they go into Amity. So I think that's great that that's in here as a huge priority for us to, to make that transition as easy and successful as we can. So.
Would this possibly, Lynn, be a good topic of conversation for a curriculum committee meeting where we delve into how we're doing, when we get to the middle school, where the gaps are, where the redundancies are we doing things that Bethany's doing, just the calibration?
I think we've done some of that in each curricular area, but that certainly could be a topic. One of the things that we've talked about is that as the new board comes on, that setting the agendas for those curriculum committee meetings will be a priority.
Yeah.
So definitely that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yes, Mrs. Prisco.
So one thing that is very clear in talking with the middle school is they do not separate out.
Right.
So there is not a discussion of Woodbridge for kids and Bethany kids. They are our kids. So that information about where are the gaps that we're sending Bethany versus Woodbridge, that would not be information we would be able to give you. They are very, very clear about they are our kids. And be it world language, be it math, it's not how many Woodbridge kids are in this math class and how many kids are in the advanced. That is so. I don't want to promise something that we would not be able to deliver.
But I do think some of the, informal discussions, when you've got like 6th grade teachers meeting with 7th grade teachers and those kinds of things. Again, nobody's expecting Amity to say, you guys really stink at this, and you're really good at this. Nobody's going to say that, But I think that the work you're doing together and those informal discussions, I think are going to benefit, our teachers and curriculum more than anything else. And I don't think we're never going to have, quantitative data that says, this many Bethany kids are in advanced and this many Bethany kids are in comp and this many Woodbridge kids. And that's not something we want anyway. We really want to know where are our gaps. And again, the fact that you've said we want to eliminate gaps, we've obviously already identified situations where we say, we're not where we need to be. And I think that's great. And I hope those discussions are fruitful, and from what I've heard, it sounds like they're wonderful discussions and collaborative, and I think that's fantastic. So,
and I think the sharing of ideas that the science coordinator has had with the middle school, the world language, it's always been helpful to come back to the curriculum committee and share that information. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know if you're thinking, if you're on the same wavelength. Certainly not, and here's your kids and here's the Bethany kids. Absolutely
We've been
not.
fortunate too, even just recently, where some of our sixth grade teachers were able to go with our science STEAM teacher. And we're trying to arrange that for math as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Did anybody have anything else on goal 1?
I just had a question about NGSS. Could you help me understand what that is? I know it's some kind of testing, some kids are chosen, so maybe you could talk a bit more
Well,
about
NGSS is the new generation science standards. So just like the Common Core State standards came to us for math and language arts, these are the new standards nationally for science. And so they're standards for teaching. They're grouped, they're really clustered by groups of grades as opposed to just a single grade. And that's why the importance of this idea of working together with the middle school, us, and because 6 through 8 is really the band. But also, then there is an assessment that goes along with that. Just like our Smarter Balance measures Common Core State standards in language arts and math, the new science assessment will measure the science NGSS standards. Does that help?
Yeah, so why are some students taking it and?
That's not true.
Everybody in grade 5.
It's just like the CMTs, like not every grade does it, but like grade 5.
So science is only tested at grade 5, 8, and 11,
Oh, so no one
or
was
10.
tested in grade 4? Because I thought some
I
people
think you're
had to.
confusing
Oh,
the
NAEP.
NAEP testing with the NGSS testing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
That's
confusing.
okay. The NAEP testing is the
So
National
lucky.
Assessment of Educational Progress.
Okay.
We were selected to participate in that, and only certain students in grade 4 were selected.
Okay,
It's a random selection. They literally give us the names and we check them off, and
I see.
They come here,
they come
they
here,
we
they
don't
do
do
it all.
anything.
They have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just.
And we're just very fortunate to have been selected twice in a row.
NGSS is the science standards assessment
Got it.
that is
Okay,
tested for
thank you.
all grade 5 students. I know it's very confusing, there's a lot
A lot of
of
acronyms.
Letters, all those letters.
a lot of letters.
Okay, was there anything else on goal 1? I'm not trying to rush anybody, I just want to keep us moving if we can. Goal 2? Okay,
I guess I would wonder whether a curriculum committee agenda item might be compacting, because I think this is the first year that you guys rolled it out, is that right? So it'd be interesting to hear how it's going and what teachers do after the kids have compacted out, and what are the goals and what can they teach, et cetera. So maybe that goes on the list if that's okay. Because that seems like a whole other big chunk.
Megan, you had started to say something.
Oh, for goal 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I just wanted to, I was thinking about what Claire had said and wanted to echo a bit, although I'm not sure if she was saying she just wanted to applaud that it was still included, the project-based learning, but I know it's PBL in here, but it is in here. And I really appreciate all the work that's gone into implementing these programs. The admin, the teachers, and everyone have really put a lot into it. And I know there's a learning curve and whatnot, but I have full confidence that they will get more and more into these things. And I love the way the renewed priorities seem very appropriate. One thing I just was thinking about was, while reading it, everything has totally been appropriate up until this point, but thinking about the first category, provide sustained support of personalized learning initiatives, and it has everything listed in there. So administration supports ongoing development of established initiatives in clusters, grades 3 and 4, project-based learning in grades 2 and 5, and capstone. And it just made me think that I wonder if it's important to make sure that MAG is added into that, because I know it didn't make sense to have them in up until this point because they were already established. Yeah. But this next step is now providing support for these programs, so I'm just wondering if it makes sense to make sure that we're including them in there because they are established, but they do need our support as well.
Yeah, I echo that. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So when we read grades 3 and 4, we don't mean not including MEG, 3 and 4.
I think so to answer that question, so I hear what you're saying. I think what the idea there was what things have been initiated in the last couple of years and how to support those versus supporting
Right.
things that have been established for 20 or 25
Right,
years
absolutely.
and
So it
that
made
are
sense to
well,
close it.
have deep roots and foundations, like the MAG program, where, and there's other things in our building, you know, like for instance, you don't see DARE on here because DARE's been around, or there may be other
Right.
things as well, but, so I definitely want to make sure the board understands that we are very supportive and will continue to be, and will always be supportive of the MAG program, and however we can support that work as well.
In fact, we could use their support in helping us with these school-wide enrichment programs, because they do have a lot of expertise that we could leverage. So it could go both ways.
So the only other comment I had was the makerspace. And again, I know we have capacity issues and space issues already. And I know we have budget issues. So to support some of this, we also have a grant writer in the town. And we've been told that we have some ability to direct, you know, some of that time. So again, if there's something that can help from, again, shared services a little bit with the town in using grant writing time, because everybody here is, you know, at their max. And also, again, you know, I know the budget issue is the budget issue, but prioritizing, you know, if this is something we really feel is, you know, a critical step in moving forward, then again, you know, we need to try to figure out how we can support that from a budget perspective and, you know, what we can do. So, but I love that, you know, that's all in here. And that's all I had on goal 2. Is there anything else? Anybody? Okay. Goal 3. I just had a quick question about the data structure. I know in the past we had like a program or a, you know, something that we put.
Data collection tool.
There you go. That's what we had.
We did.
And then we kind of said our homegrown version is better. And
Well,
gives
that
us-
went away.
Okay, that went away.
The platform
And
said
so
we're no longer
there
doing
you
that.
go. So do we feel like our ability to put in data, get it back, massage it in the way that is the most effective for us, we feel like we're there?
I'm so glad Gina and Lisa are here. They're going to talk about this.
So it is for right now the most effective because the tools that are out there currently, and you know, even talking to Dr. Dellinger over to Amy, the tools that are out there are somewhat cumbersome. They are not meeting the needs of what. Now, we are not a district of 12,000 students where there has to be this overall. We are fortunate that what we are using right now, Google Sheets, I mean, and putting our data and being able to look last year to this year, looking at students, looking at growth, and looking across a year, across a class. It is effective for us for now. That being said, we still continue to look for a platform that might be more efficient, fiscally responsible, because the one we have right now is very fiscally responsible. It's free. We make it. So, but we do continue to look, and you know, one will come across, you know, my desk or Lisa's or even Mr. Crawford will say, hey, I'll check this out and see. What we don't want is just something that is going to be very cumbersome or time consuming and not give us the information that we need. But
So-
that's always on the radar.
So the data that we have and the way we use it, we are good with it. Doesn't mean we're not looking at some sort of like software product.
Correct.
But at the same time, what we have and our ability to share vertically, horizontally, we're good. Good.
We're good.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
I had a process question with respect to professional learning. Could you talk about the extent to which teachers have input into what kind of professional development they need, and to what extent we then seek their feedback after the training has happened, so that we understand how effective that training has been?
I'll say one thing, and then I'm going to turn it back over again because Gina and one of the teachers really are the co-leaders of our PDEC committee, professional development committee. But I guess what I would just start off by saying is we have a very collaborative process between teachers and administrators, and while you can't differentiate necessarily to the greatest extent, to the very minutest element, when one looks at the offerings that we do on a professional development day and the variety of things that are meeting grade level needs or department needs, it's truly astounding. So I think I'll let Gina talk a little bit about how that planning kind of takes place, and also how we get feedback from people, because feedback is important for us in terms of trying to move forward.
So over time, we've established a very strong PDEC, Professional Development Educator Evaluation Committee. Again, another acronym. We've established a really strong one with representation from, again, all of these are voluntary, before and after school. And that team also meets in the summer. Again, voluntary, they come, and we look across the year at things that we need to do, mandates that we have.
So the volunteers are teachers that volunteer their time after
Correct.
school? Okay, got it.
Yep, yes, sorry about that. So we look across the year, we make this plan across the year in the summer. So kind of a skeleton framework of what we really have to do by state mandates, some of those that we need to do. We've done some needs assessments, we've done a couple over the last few years. What are some of the things that fall under the umbrella of our initiatives, our goals? Reading, writing, math, science, big areas. What are some things that we need to do collectively for grade levels or for content, different content? So we try to see, all right, what are the days that we can do that? We think about our partnerships with Teachers College and our partnership with ACES with some of the understandings for the standards. So we also have to think about our outliers, like our single folks, kind of our world language people, our PE folks, our health. So sometimes they have to go out to get some of their professional learning. So we reach out, members of our committee, kind of reach out directly to them, say, we've got our PD day coming up in March. Here's what we think we're working on. What do you need? So those are some individual conversations. And then as far as feedback, we use our surveys. And anybody who's worked with surveys knows that we don't always get a large response. We always leave open comment. One more thing, I think our line is one more thing I have to say, or one more thing I need. And so we look at that in our monthly meetings. And sometimes we have to have a couple, but it's typically monthly at the Professional Development Committee meets. And we look at the responses to the professional development to say, was this effective? What worked? What didn't? And things like responsive classroom, where we try to put pieces in continually, and we get things like, can we offer that again? And sometimes we can't offer it again this year, so that people can go to something else that they didn't get an opportunity when there's choice. So, we encourage people to fill out those feedback forms for us to review that. And again, staying under those big umbrellas of the district goals.
Since you raised responsive classroom and surveys around that, actually, do you survey the teachers to see to what extent they feel that it is effective? Because there was some feedback from the survey results that the WEA had run, and it seemed to indicate questions around whether it is as effective as it could be. Maybe there are other options. So I was just curious whether you guys, separately surveyed.
Just sent an individual survey about response. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, just to find out what teachers think, because it seems like that's an area that was. Okay.
We had some professional development around responsive classroom, so that's what she was referring to. Like we had
Right.
sent out one of our feedback questionnaires after that professional development day, but we haven't done a separate one just on.
Got it, okay.
So one of the things that is true now, and it was in prior negotiations, professional development was an issue years
When I
ago.
got here.
Yeah, and we've made huge progress. We've added professional development, days. We've added time. Again, in financially difficult times, we've supported the budget to the degree we can. However, if there's WEA, concerns about any particular program, whether it's, Columbia, whether it's responsive classroom, again, I'm assuming that those issues come up when, you get together with the,
Okay.
well, not, with the teachers, bring up what's of concern in negotiations, but they also meet, faculty meetings happen very often, and I think what I hear is there's back and forth about those things. So I think what I'm saying is, my understanding is we have a process for making sure that feedback gets heard and gets, again, you're never going to make everybody happy. I'm sure there's people who hate, teachers' college, I don't know. But again, for the majority of our teachers, what's kind of the sentiment too. The only other thing, I know the TA, contract, the negotiations are going on now, and again, from a professional learning perspective, I don't know if that comes up, because I know their contract is very, very different from the teachers, but, if that's something that, if there's any clarification or any, chance now to do something that helps support what you're trying to do.
The spirit of that, it may not be in print, but in the spirit of it, we were talking about it, and in actually, as you know, is we approved the calendar for next year several months back
With additional
minimum days. We're looking to take advantage of those as much as possible for additional teacher, not just teacher professional learning, but teacher assistant professional learning as well.
Right.
It's an area that it's hard to do because they don't have the same number of days, and they're not here for faculty meetings after school, because it's not part of the structure of the job, the expectations, the pay, and all that kind of thing.
Okay, all right. Was there anything else on goal 3? Okay. Goal 4, sorry, is there anything on goal 4? Believe it or not, I didn't have anything on goal 4.
It just seems that from the feedback that we heard on the survey that the WEA gave us, or provided to us, that the social emotional learning support section seems particularly important because of the behavioral issues that seem like are increasing. I know that it's hard to pinpoint exactly what the source of the problems are, and it could be multi-source. It's hard to unbundle, but I guess when I'm looking at the actions, there seems like there should be more on that. I'm not sure how effective, Empathy Across America, Peaceful Bus, things like that would really address those issues that seem to come up. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this, I'm just,
I understand what you're saying.
in relation to the issues that people have cited as really quite a problem, maybe we could do more in that space.
Agreed, and we are doing more, and we should do more. So, in thinking of what the Safe School Climate Plan looks like, and some of the things that we do or continue to, I've only listed a couple of things here that plan really attempts to try to move forward. There are other things, and I think also part of that addressing the behavior, addressing the changing context of students who are entering our school across the state, not just in Woodbridge, but here at Beecher Road, is some of that staffing that we're able to add this year in our budget, because those are staff members that will continue to form that team that does address that. So part of it's in staffing, part of it's how we train staff in that prior goal of professional learning, and how do we equip people, which I think we can do more. But then also, it's more than Peaceful Bus, but yes, Joyce, I agree with you. There's other things here that we need to be talking about, and they're embedded in the plan, will be talked and done.
So again, going forward into the new board, maybe a presentation on, what we're doing to address things. And I mean, we talked a little bit about this in the survey results session. What were the key things, questions or issues, or the numbers that we wanted to look at, where kids said certain things, teachers said certain things, and how are we addressing those particular things. And again, the plan for that, maybe again, is to the degree that we can say it's bigger than this, and here's the plan, and have it in the strategic plan. Because like I said before, it's just so helpful to see all of that together, you know, and we know, and when you say, you know it's more than this, these are the things that are kind of either new or renewing or, you know, whatever, but again, maybe in a board meeting, it's helpful to say, plus all this other stuff, you know, I mean, because we always forget about all the basics, you know, we go, this is all the new stuff, you know, this is all, and then there's all this other stuff that still goes on, so, okay. Anything else on 4?
Just, I wanted to raise the issue of exploring regional and global partnership options, because as we know, Dr. Stella had established a sister school with China, and you know, that was really interesting, it was exciting, etc. But then I think you had mentioned that that wasn't necessarily a priority because everyone had a lot on their plate. So I guess I would ask ourselves, to what extent should this be a priority? I'm not saying it should be. I just, you know, maybe it belongs on here, maybe it doesn't. It is sort of the question, because it may not be a priority since we're a small school, we have limited dollars, you know, we have a lot on our plates. So I don't know if that really still belongs. That's a conversation. That's a question. The other piece, seeking community resources, it seems like with Yale next door, we have a wealth of resources, and I would like us to be able to do more with that. We have so many parents in our community who work with Yale, work for Yale. I mean, it just seems like we could leverage those resources better.
I always feel like that sounds so good, and in execution, you know, we just heard from the PTO, we got nobody volunteering. I mean, we couldn't even put together a lecture series, you know, with this. And I'm not saying we shouldn't keep trying. I'm just saying these things, it's not like there's parents saying, you know, yeah, I can commit this amount of time and this amount of effort and this amount of energy every week, every month, every whatever. And so I just think we need to be a little careful about, not to say we shouldn't keep trying, but it's not like you just say, do any parents know stuff about astronomy, and you get like 15 people.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think we've asked. So
Yes,
I think we have asked.
Through community
We
diversity,
actually,
the principal's message.
the Community Diversity Committee this year sort of made the suggestion that we reach out to the Beecher Road School parent community and basically say to them exactly what you're saying. Do you have a talent? Do you have a way that you can support us? Here are some things that we're doing. So we actually did that through
I remember the email.
principal's message.
Yeah, I remember the email.
I think we did it a couple times through the principal's message. I think we got 3 or 4
And I'm not
responses.
trying to be a downer on this. And
No,
again,
no,
I think we just have to be careful, because we
didn't get very
often
many
say,
responses.
we could use parent resources, we could use community resources, and, you know, it's just, I think we don't need to understate the difficulty in that.
Yeah, I guess, you know, just speaking, so I am very involved with First Lego League, which is a science and robotics team competition program, and it's all about reaching out to experts. So because of the community we live in, we actually are at a distinct advantage because we are able to reach out to so many people. So we do it, the teams all do it. So I don't discount how hard it is to do. But I think sending out an email was not going to do the trick. You have to be able to network, you have to pick up the phone, and you have to meet people, and you have to. And so I think that we might be able to make something of it. I think that it would be a huge benefit to our community if we were able to do that.
Was there anything else on 4? Okay. 5. Is there anything on 5? My only comment was down, you know, explore school scheduling and structure. I just envision a wall full of little blocks on how everything is scheduled. But I'd hate for us to see that as it's too hard to change, you know, because there's like a million blocks and it's too hard, you know, to make it different, you know. So just, I love that this is here, that we're actually saying, you know what, as difficult as it would be to move some scheduling around, we're going to consider that because it might make the most sense to have a different schedule. So again, I'm so glad that's not something I have to worry about, but I'm really glad that it's on here.
We do work on that schedule every year.
I can only imagine.
One of the areas that's guiding us is how do we maximize instructional time? And are there ways to overlay different things that kids are doing during the day at the same time without getting in the way of each other so we can maximize their academic achievement moving forward? Not easy to do, but yeah, so.
It just seems like this particular goal would be easier to quantify, and so I think showing metrics, especially in this space, I mean, we should try to do it to the extent that we can in all the areas, but it seems like this is an area that lends itself well to showing metrics. How much are we saving? How many cases do we have? I think there's a lot more quantitative data that we could include in something like this.
Is there anything else on Goal 5? And we're going to try to rip through the rest of the agenda because I know it's already getting late.
There's not much left. I do want to say,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just very briefly. First of all, thank you for your reflections and your input. Thanks also from administration on chiming in on a number of things. I did. This was a plan that in this revision or in this renewed version, we'd have a chance to talk to the current WEA executive board to just kind of bounce this off of them a little bit with administration, and also I've really tried to be keep my ears open to hear the conversations we've had at the board level on some things. So for instance, where do those board conversations where have they played out? Obviously, in the first goal, I'll just go really quick. The first goal in the curriculum development work, we've talked a lot about that, so I feel that there's been an emphasis there, and I also think on that goal 1, there's the increased student achievement on state assessments. I think we had some conversations when we were talking a little bit more about the accountability report and early reports last year. So thinking about how do we impact that, those were board conversations that I've definitely heard. Goal number 2, obviously the last 2 renewed priorities, the transitions in tag identification, but also the consistent grade level communications to parents, especially in math. Those are things that were some of those born out of our ad hoc committee that had a lot of board involvement. When I take a look at goal number 5, the fiscal strategy, some of us have spoken about the need to get ahead of that area and to be moving forward and be proactive. Sustainability is certainly an ad hoc committee that we have that there's a lot of board involvement and initiative in, as well as our efficiency. So trying to listen to some of the conversations along the way and other conversations tonight. Certainly that you folks have brought up some things to try to hear the voices from all around on that.
And I do appreciate the way that you've kind of blocked off stuff that we've done, because it's all wonderful stuff, and you would like to, all of us would like to talk about the stuff that's done, and I like the way you kind of moved that and said, okay, but here's what's coming up. So I think that's very helpful, even though, you don't get to say, school-wide enrichment, it's fantastic and it's wonderful and we did it, we're doing it, not we did it. It's, always continuing, but that was very helpful for me.
And again, a final comment, just say that it's about the amazing teachers and staff and support administration in this building that makes these things happen above and beyond. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we are on upcoming meetings. The TAG, I think we're just getting a report on how it went. The first TAG assessment.
That's the essence of what that will be.
Okay.
That's correct.
Did anybody have anything in particular? This is, I think, more of an informational, how did it go for everybody? Okay. Wellness, again, that's letting us know what's going on with the wellness, committee. So I don't know if anybody had anything specific that they wanted to hear about, or we'll get the update, and if there's, questions about individual topics, we can certainly, add that to an agenda. Did anybody have anything that they were thinking of in particular? Okay. Ad hoc sustainability, obviously that committee is going to give us a report and a recommendation.
Claire's working on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And And obviously the relief thing is already, in
That'll be part of
process,
it,
so,
sure.
okay, so
Yep.
some of it's already here. And then what's the survey result, an update on?
So we do our surveying each
Yep,
year, so
yep.
we have just concluded that. We're waiting for the results from Panorama in terms of just getting that. So we will be presenting another set of results as we go 1 year down the road.
So what survey is this? It's not the three that we,
This was the
So remember last year we did the parents, the
Right.
students in grades 2 through 6,
Right. And the staff.
teachers and staff.
right.
And so we've done it again because we wanted to see where we are 1
We're
year
doing-
later.
That's right, we're doing it every year. See, I'm used to every other year, now I'm all screwed up. Okay, fantastic, so we're gonna
And
get,
we're going to have those results by the next meeting, do you think?
June, our goal is June. Goal-
Jean is looking
No,
nervous.
no, it's okay, it's all good, it's all good. I can't make it to the next meeting, I would love to.
We'll definitely share them, though, but there's no doubt we're going to get them shared.
Okay,
But
just a few comments. So last time, and I think the year before, the neutral comments were included in the favorable comments. So can we make sure that that doesn't happen again?
they weren't last year. They weren't no,
They were.
no.
Not, yeah, I think they were.
They
No.
were.
The teachers, maybe? They were done
One of them was. I just remember seeing that. So I was trying to do the math in my head. Just didn't.
I thought that was the
So
year before.
definitely the year before, and it was one of them at least for last year. So if we could just make sure that doesn't happen again.
that they're not included in,
So the only place we actually have a neutral is the parent survey, because the staff,
That is correct,
The
yes.
favorable.
it wasn't included in, it was, the first two were included in the approve or whatever, but it's fine, and the other thing is we have the detail. I mean, I can,
We
We won't.
I just think it's misleading in the
okay, I don't think we did it.
summary. The other thing is, there are a couple of questions, and I know that we outsource it to Panorama, and we say that they're the experts, but there are certain questions that are so obviously written in such a way that we wouldn't be able to get data that's useful. So for example, is the amount of challenge appropriate, or is the amount of homework appropriate? Well, the thing is, if it's too little or too much, you wouldn't be able to tell. Also, from the perspective of a student, you have questions and they're like, what is the energy like in the school? And so, a fourth grader comes home, he's my son, and he's like, well, what does that mean? What's energy? So I get it that, these are supposed to be experts, but having said that, there are questions on there that, I think we're not going to get good data on it. So if someone could just more closely look at those questions, that would be great.
Okay. Revised teacher evaluation plan. This is a lot on the agenda
so
for June,
it is, yes,
just so you know.
it is.
Okay. All right.
Margaret's winding
We didn't
down.
We didn't want your last
So,
meeting to be
so
boring.
if we are pushing on some individual items, okay, so if we're pushing on the, Panorama, or whatever, let's consider that this is, this is very full, and see if there is something, because I think that the teacher evaluation plan, I know we've gone over it before, but I think it's really important, and I just want everybody fresh when they're listening to this stuff.
Sure, and the purpose of that one, you might remember that as a
Yeah.
board, you asked for last year, so actually a report about what the teacher evaluation plan consists of and the processes and that has been given to you. What this purpose is strictly,
just
this,
point it up where?
we made a few little massages in the plan, and we actually need the board to understand what those are and to say, yes, we agree. We already have agreement between our teachers and administrators in the building,
Right.
the PDA
So for the
committee, if you
state,
will.
we have.
So from a state perspective, they need the board to say yes. So that particular one was not going to be a full-blown,
Okay, right. So
We had
all of us
one
have the
today.
opportunity to look at the current teacher evaluation plan, to go through it at whatever level we feel we need to, and you're just going to say, these are the changes we've made. These are the tweaks that we think need to be made in order to make this more effective. And you'll tell us what those are. And we'll say,
right.
And that was the PDA committee that worked on that and Doreen. You're also the co-chair. Many eyes were on it. Some of it is really just formatting issues, putting things into tables, make things easier. So it should be really fairly.
Right.
Would we ever
I
consider-
overreacted to that one.
Would we ever consider having parental feedback for teachers? Is that something
What's that?
that's
I'm
done?
sorry.
Parental feedback on teachers.
On individual
Individuals?
teachers, as opposed to the survey?
Well,
which-
so we do use a survey, we use components of the survey.
No, but that,
As-
you can't, like, you're not supposed to identify who's.
Right,
so on,
right.
right?
It's overall feedback. So the answer to that is I can just tell you what the typical norm is across the state. And that doesn't happen on an individual teacher basis. It happens on a school-wide basis on the feedback for lots of reasons. Some of them are just practical reasons, and some of them are the teacher evaluation plan has been something that's been vetted and at the state level between the CEA and the state board, and so there's some other aspects to what's guided the structure of what is or is not in there. So that's just sort of a high level kind of reaction to you're wondering about that, but
Yeah. It's
yeah.
just the interesting perspective.
Okay, so we're going to go quickly through the committee's facilities. I think compared to the past, we haven't had anywhere near as much activity going on that, so I think we're good there. Finance, we already did the authorization. Policy, we already approved the policies. And I know that you're continuing to work based on a CABE priority list of
Right.
what's next
Right.
for like the next year. So,
Yeah.
like you're doing, this is like 2 years it's going to take. Okay, all right. CABE liaison.
Sure. Try to make it quick. So talking about professional development, there's professional development for us too. CABE obviously every year has the CABE CAPS conference. Always encourage everyone to try to attend that. Bob is always there.
That's
and
always
you should be
in
there as well.
November, though, isn't
That's
that
November,
right?
yep.
Yeah, and it's always right before the FLL
Oh, the
tournament.
competition, yeah. Yeah, that was
That's
gracious
a
of you
bummer.
to let us take the robot last year too, right? But yeah, putting that on everyone's radar. One coming up soon is the collective bargaining workshop. And Joyce, I think you are going to that?
Yes, so
We
Bob
both-
and
we
I
both
both
went.
did that,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, that already
It was this
happened.
past Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great. But yeah, in general, there's 3, CABE CAPS is one, and then the 2 other ones that I know we're not all here, but would really encourage us all to go to at least one of is the new board member and leadership conference, because they have different things you can do focusing on one or the other. And then also this summer is the summer leadership conference at Water's Edge. I know I did that previously, but maybe do that again. So
Where
just
is
good
it?
to kind of keep us all. That one's at Water's Edge.
Where's Water's Edge?
Westbrook?
Is it Westbrook? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And I think that it is important to discuss professional development for the board at the retreat.
yes, I agree.
Because we have failed miserably at professional development for many, many years.
The biggest amendment time.
Yeah.
Participation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, just, yeah, and again, we have to be.
Same thing, the PTO.
Yeah,
Right.
Well,
It's-
we have to be budget
Global.
conscious in terms of like, the only time we ever went to the national meeting was when it was in Boston and we could go back and forth, and not stay. So we do need to be cognizant of budget issues. However, we budget for some professional development by the board, and usually we probably end up ahead on that particular line item. So, okay. We are having an executive session, but we have public comment again.
I'm going to be
Very
real
patient,
concise.
Dan. What?
I'll be concise.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah, sure.
Wherever you are.
You've been waiting for how long?
That's
That's it.
All right, so I'm Dan Cowan. I live at 33 Wedgwood Drive, and I just wanted to there was a comment earlier made about a parent saying that, the gross to net ratio on some of the fundraising, they didn't appreciate. And I have to say, I think that's an extremely uninformed comment to be made. And it boils my blood as somebody who does fundraising for the school, to have a parent say, I don't like what's going on with the fundraising, and I'd like to ask that parent, what have you done for this school in fundraising? Because I guarantee the answer is probably nothing. So that's just me as Dan Cowan as a parent. I'm not saying it on behalf of the PTO. I'm saying it in defense of the PTO. And I would love to talk to the person who talked to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else in the meantime? I don't know. Were you? Okay, all right. I thought maybe somebody signed up. Oh, you did too, okay.
I'd like to start with some gratitude. Another year of the administration and the teachers obviously putting forth all their effort. And there's no way to hide that type of thing or fake it. And this will be my 7th budget session, and I'm impressed each year. I'm impressed by the amount of dedication and the effort that gets put forth. I think the PTO is a reflection of that. We're all overachievers in this community, and I can tell you that they put in dozens of hours, many times after 9 p.m. or before 8 a.m. And once again, there's no faking that. So it's not a bunch of speeches, it's not a bunch of lip service, it's actual effort and it's actual time. As far as the split of the proceeds from the fundraiser, once again, as already has been commented, 50% split is not unusual. There are other fundraisers here at the school which are substantially below that amount. So to criticize it merely on its split, I believe, is uninformed. As far as the noise that Ms. Shavers mentioned, as far as from parents and teachers, what I find out is that no one's here. No one's here. And no one came to the event to see for themselves how it performed and how the kids reacted. And I recognize that you were speaking as a parent, but the context in which you offered your comments was not as a parent, but rather as a board member. And I think it gives the appearance, unnecessarily so, to have those comments introduced at that point in the proceeding when they could have been saved for public comment. As far as the manner and aggressive was another term that was used to describe the fundraising. I think aggressive and enthusiastic are synonyms. And I think enthusiastic support for this program, which could be ignored by anyone who chose to do so, is a benefit. It's not a negative. And obviously there was plenty of opportunity and notice to all of the parents and the entire school community of what was being considered. And with each of those opportunities came the opportunity for objection. And yet there was no official objection. Once again, I think is a sign of apathy, which is people may care for a moment, but they're not going to care enough to take hours out of their day to address a particular problem. And I just don't think we should be giving attention or echoing that sentiment unless they're here to do so on their own. As far as the timing of the program, or the fundraiser, it was prior to CBAC, or SBAC rather. SBAC's not about learning, it's about funding. So to suggest that the fundraiser took away from the learning process and somehow undermined the testing protocols, I think is unfair. I don't know that any children learned from those standardized tests. I think it's more a measuring stick and a way of apportioning funding. So to couch the fundraiser as not academically supportive, I think is unfair. And just in particular to your comment regarding the surveys, I know a great deal of time and energy was put into those surveys, and to identify 2 questions out of all the questions that were asked as being maybe unclear or could have been articulated better, I think once again is an example of exception management, where we identify the criticisms but we don't add the necessary emphasis to the success. So I think those surveys were not only a great deal of time and effort devoted to them, but by and large, those questions were well thought out and well articulated, and the findings and the feedback from those surveys, I think, were put into action as best as possible. That's all I have. Thanks a lot to the PTO. I think if there's any teachers who want to object or protest, then they don't have to take any of the money that the PTO raises. I think that's a very objective way for them to demonstrate their protest of the fundraiser. So that's their option. But again, thank you to all of you. I think you do a great job. We're here 2 hours. I'm sure nobody's going to pay for it. And we appreciate the effort that you put towards our kids.
Thank you.
Could I have your name, please?
Daniel Esposito.
Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria Madonic, and I'm a PTO treasurer and a parent of 3 children here and 1 at the middle school. I wanted to just say a couple of brief words, both about the fundraising and about the reason behind a lot of what we're fundraising. When I came on as treasurer, I discovered that as budgets have been passed over the years, more and more of certain things have been cut out of the budget because of the climate that we're in. And so the PTO is being relied on more and more to fund things that were traditionally and years ago included in the school budget. And I think that's important to know when you wonder why we have such a push for fundraising now and why we're seeking out more efficient ways to do fundraising. We have piloted this year a program for teacher grants. And so we have set aside a certain amount of money and we ask the teachers to write grants, things that they feel would help their classrooms. And I have to say that a lot of the grants we've gotten are for books and supplies. And I really feel that in another era, maybe 5, 7, 10 years ago, this was something that was already available to the school and to them. And so I think that it's important to understand that our fundraising is to support a lot of programs that you might not think we would have to go to outside sources to get funds. I think that this year it was a new program, and anytime there's something new with the Booster-thon, I think there's an unknown, and a lot of times people fear the unknown. And I think that was the reason for perhaps the aggressive emails, and because that's how you get information out to people. The reason why companies like Booster-thon exist is because they've already done the background work for setting up online platforms. They've also done all of the sociological research that goes into how many emails reaches a certain percentage of the population. How many times do you need to target with certain multimedia presentations to get a certain response back? Because the whole point of fundraising is to aggressively get funds for your program and for your school. So that was one of the reasons why the team had reached out to a company whose sole job it is to understand and know all of these facts so that they can put that into practice when we go ahead and implement programs like this. I think that, we're faced with budget issues at the same time that we're faced with overworked and overcommitted families. And so there isn't a lot of opportunity for volunteerism, or there isn't a lot of opportunity to run a fundraiser where 100% of the items are donated and 100% of the time is donated. And in this day and age, even, our beloved hoop, there are operating costs to that. There are operating costs to having, additional police services. There are operating costs to things that you have to purchase for the event. You have to spend money to make money, so to speak. So there are operating costs associated with all of our fundraisers. And, we've never had someone come to us and say, well, I'm not going to do school pictures because you only get 30 or 40% of the profit for that. It's the cost of doing business insofar as fundraisers go, no matter whether we have an event here at school or whether we contract out to a company whose sole job it is to do all the background work. And I do think with regards to missed class time, I am a MAG parent, and I know one of the parents that voiced concerns sent an email out to all of the MAG parents, so I was able to see those concerns firsthand. And I think that, while there was some class time missed, I think that there is a, what's the word I'm looking for? There is a need for, and there is for people to understand what it is to be a part of a community, raise funds for a community, and to work within that community. And I think that learning all those things in the outside of the classroom was a valuable piece to that. And it wasn't just all based on fundraising. They picked a topic STEAM, so there was an educational component to every time these students were pulled out of class for these 10-minute pep rallies. So I think that needs to be mentioned also, that these weren't just fundraising times that children were taken out, that there was an educational component as well as a team building and community component, which is highly valuable. for going forward, for understanding what the energy is of a community. I think that's highly valuable. And I just wanted to bring those points up with regard to, as the treasurer, to help everyone understand that we do take constructive feedback very seriously. We've had feedback about the ice cream social, we've had feedback about the school directories, and we are looking for ways to improve all of that. But I really think that this event, a lot of these things about the advertising of it, the outreach, and also the split, those are all par for the course for any type of fundraising. And I think that needed to be mentioned again. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anybody else?
Can I speak as a community member? Do you want me to, I'll step away from the table?
Is that okay?
Am I allowed to do that?
That's never really happened before.
Well, leave it to me to be the first.
Just sit and.
No, well, I think,
She
go over
shouldn't
there.
sit and do it.
Okay, yeah, because I think I should not speak I'm not speaking as a board member. I did want to just address the board and the community that's watching on TV. As a member of the Amity and Woodbridge Historical Society, I wanted to thank the administration and the school district for their support of our May 5th event, Children's Day at the Old South Schoolhouse, and to also acknowledge the work of the two librarians at the school, Larissa Crocco and Lori Patrick, who gave of their time to come to an event that became a collaborative event with the community. Despite the rainy weather of the day, the kids had a wonderful time. Our first lesson, every single desk at the Old South Schoolhouse was filled with a child. They worked on slates and did handwriting, and they had elocution lessons, and it was great. And so I did want to take an opportunity to thank the administration for their support of that, and to thank the librarians especially for the time they put into working with the Historical Society and having a community event that the kids really loved. So thank you.
That was pretty controversial.
It was, I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
What is she gonna say?
Yeah. I think maybe that was her.
All right.
I guess I should have given you a heads up.
It's okay. I'm like, what the hell is she?
But I thought it was the fact.
She's almost dead.
Okay, so we're gonna, unless there's anything else, we're gonna adjourn and go into executive session. So that means we need to ask all of you to leave. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you much for staying. Need a motion to adjourn? No, you leave. You don't adjourn, right? We just don't, okay. Magically, we're gonna be in executive session.
I can't make them. Oh, no, that's how it's magic.
Yeah.